Good evening, all my good people out there in Raider Nation land. This is your best friend, Raider Rome. And on Wednesday night, I fought that West Coast bias with my main man, Josh Matson, over there on the West Coast recess. But tonight, I'm going to go ahead and discuss a little something that's near and dear to my heart, and that's that Oakland Raider football. And being 4-4, I mean, we had a kind of a disappointing defeat last week. But if you told me in August that the Oakland Raiders would be a 4-4 football team, I'd take it. So, hey, I'm pretty stoked about where we are. And I'm sure my co-host Jim Paskowitz is also. And when we are together, we are the NGSC Blackhole Brigade. And what we do is we bring to you all the happenings that go on in the Raider Nation, one game at a time like we always do. Jim hasn't made it yet here, but I do have another guest here with us tonight. I mean, you know him very well around the NGSC universe. He's one of my good friends. He runs the Draft Central program for the NGSC. So without further ado, I'd like for you to meet my good friend over here, my brother, my good friend, Josh Zimmer. How you doing tonight, Josh?
Hey, I'm doing good, Raider Rome. Thank you for having me on this evening. I'm extremely excited to be able to get a little bit of Raider Nation into me before they come up and play Minnesota.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be a fun one here. But before we go any further here, I see that my main man, my co-host with the most, my brother of a different color, my Raider brother Jim Paskowitz has shown up tonight, and he's ready to fight that Raider Nation bias along with you and I tonight, Josh. How's things going on your end over there, Jim?
I'm doing okay. I had some phone problems, but seems to be okay now.
All right, good deal here. And as far as that roundtable discussion, and I'm trying to pull in a couple people, but it looks like it's just going to be us three tonight. And, hey, three is a crowd, and I'm sure we'll get a lot accomplished tonight. So we're going to have ourselves a good old time, Jim.
It's going to be a fun week. We're at the halfway point, so it's been an okay season so far.
It's been all right. So, Jim, in August, if somebody told you the Raiders would be 4-4 at this point, what would you have said?
I would have been completely psyched. Looking at the first 8 games, there were some tough ones in there. I didn't expect to get past the one that really got me was the Jets. I really wasn't expecting them to come out and beat the Jets the way they did. I would have said maybe 2-6. And I would have been okay with that, as long as they looked better. You know, what bothered me last year wasn't so much losing, but it was just looking bad. And I'll go back to that Rams game in London that was so awful to watch, and that entire season. And what I look for is just competitiveness. Just, you know, put a good game out on that field, and if you win, you win, and if you don't, you don't. And that's what I've seen this first half of this season is we've been in games every game, except for that Cincinnati game. We've been in every game, and it's good to walk away from a game like last week in Pittsburgh and think we should have won that. We should have won that.
Yeah, that doesn't happen too often when you go to different places, especially being a Raider fan. It's kind of a different look for us here. So I guess we should go ahead and recap that game here. I mean, Michael Crabtree, he's starting to look like the Raiders better pay him yesterday, man. Another 100-yard performance. He caught 2 touchdown passes, and I'm really stoked about the guy. So, I mean, if it's me, I'm giving Crabtree the money. What do you say?
I'm saying he's been everything the Raiders have asked him to be. He's been the veteran leader on the other side. He's provided a great target to keep double teams off of Cooper. He's been the man so far. I mean, you can't say it. I can't say a bad word about him, even though, you know, when he was drafted, there was all that stuff about how he didn't want to be a Raider. All that stuff is water under the bridge now.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Extend him and pay the man. I mean, they've got the cap room to do it. Do it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it seems like he really wants to be a Raider now, so, hey, let's go ahead and make that happen. I guess I'm going to go ahead and bring Josh Zimmer in here to get his opinion on this. How do you think Michael Crabtree is fitting in so far with that Oakland Raider receiving core over there, Josh? And would you pay the man at this point?
Well, to be honest with you, I think he's been a pretty damn good compliment. You know, you look at, obviously, Amari Cooper is the number one guy. That's leaps and bounds. You know, it's the obvious choice there. But when you talk about, who else does he have to throw to? I mean, Clyde Walford is starting to step up a little bit as a tight end, but I think everybody knows that unless you're Tom Brady, you can't feed a ball to the tight end, 12, 13, 14 times a game when they take away your number one receiver. So I think Crabtree stepped up real well, especially since the rest of those receiving core has kind of been somewhat, no-name participants for that matter. Guys that, haven't been those, star pupils, first-round picks, second-round picks, you name it. So I think he's done great. I don't know necessarily if I would pay him the money just yet. I would like to see how he finishes the season because obviously it'd be easy to pay him at the halfway point of how he's played this year, but we all know 17 games, and the one knock on Krabs is that he just has the habit of not being able to stay healthy. So if he stays healthy the entire year and puts up good numbers to go with it, I'm right there with you. I think you guys would have to pay the man.
Yeah, knock on wood. Hopefully he does stay healthy there. And aside from that, I mean, Latavius Murray, he had himself a pretty good game. He was headed way over 100 yards before he took that knockout blow. But the thing that really frustrates me, though, that defense, my God. I mean, D'Angelo Williams, Antonio Brown, you give up nearly 500 yards of total offense to two players. I mean, when the hell does this ever happen in a football game? DJ Hayden, David Emerson, go kick yourselves in the ass because, I mean, single-handedly, you guys were just putrid Sunday. Then that Martavis Bryant touchdown where he's just making moves on everybody. I mean, come on, guys. Defensively, if we play like this, Minnesota's going to have themselves a field day. So that defense, you really got to get it together. Although kudos to Alden Smith, though, for getting the sack on Ben Roethlisberger. I was pretty happy to see that take place. And Derek Carr, this guy, he's getting better game after game. Another 300-yard performance, another 4-touchdown performance. Got to minimize the crucial turnovers, though, in the red zone. The Raiders would have probably been in a way better place if he doesn't throw that interception in the end zone with about 4 minutes left. So I'll go ahead and let you discuss that one, Jim.
Yeah, I didn't like that throw. First of all, it was the guy was well covered. He was blanketed. There wasn't an opening to throw to. It's one of Carr's few mistakes this first half. And what I was worried about coming into the season, in the preseason, I was wondering, how he would do in that offense. And he looked really good with a minimum of mistakes when you consider how often he throws. But that throw on Sunday was just into double coverage. There wasn't a chance he could get it in there. At that point, you just throw it out of the back of the end zone and come back, because he should at least walk away with 3 points from that, and that was the difference in the game.
But the thing is, though, Jim, the more I look at the replay of the throw, he had Steph Roberts wide open in the back of the end zone. Pittsburgh dropped into a zone. He didn't even have to force the football to Walford right there. That's another thing that frustrates me about Carr. I mean, see the play all the way through. If you don't trust it, yeah, just throw the ball to one of them fans in the back of the end zone. But he'll learn. I mean, you can't be too angry at the guy. 20 touchdown passes, 4 interceptions halfway through the season. I mean, he's exceeding even my wildest expectations at this point.
Yeah, and really you can't. It's hard to lay it all on the offense at all because, you put up 35 points against that Steeler defense. There's definitely a problem other than that interception. But, that was just one of his rare poor decisions that I've seen this first half. That he's been such a solid decision maker all first half. And it was kind of a shock to see. But, it happened, and we move on.
Yeah, it does happen from time to time. And my thing is, I mean, you score 35 points, you should win. Then the Raiders did give up a few turnovers. So if you don't turn the football over, I mean, you win this game easily. I mean, my thing is this here, Jim and Josh. I can accept losing to an opponent, but the thing that really chaps my ass is when you drop passes and you turn the football over, because those are just unforced errors. I mean, that's not a product of defenses doing anything to you. You turn the ball over, you give away chances to score, and they just really kill me.
Yeah. Cooper had a couple of really, really frustrating drops, especially early, and Walford had a couple that were frustrating. I agree completely that, when a guy hits you right in the hands and you drop it, that is probably one of the most frustrating things in football. Because, everything worked, everything should be there, and boom.
Yeah, exactly.
It completely it completely tears apart everything you're trying to do. And against Pittsburgh, you can't do that. I mean, they're not the Steel Curtain, they're not, the Swan and Stallworth guys from, 30, 40 years ago, but they're still the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're still a good team, and you can't make mistakes like that.
Exactly. You can make mistakes, though, against anybody in this NFL. I mean, in 2015, you make a mistake, I think even the Detroit Lions would burn your ass 5 or 6 plays later.
Yeah, I mean, we saw what happened Thursday night against Buffalo and with the Jets, and how Buffalo capitalized on, it seemed like, every turnover the Jets had. So you can't, every mistake they made, the Bills capitalized on. So you can't take anything for granted. And those drops by Cooper, I love the kid. I think he's going to be a great receiver in the league, but it's still a little bit frustrating.
Oh, I don't blame you there, Jim. And speaking of young sophomore quarterbacks here, I guess we can go ahead and move on and start talking about this matchup here with the Minnesota Vikings here. They've got young Teddy Bridgewater. He's got himself off to a decent start. Minnesota, they're 6-2. Bridgewater, he's thrown for over 1,500 yards this season. He's played very well. He's also got help from a new young talent over there, Stephon Diggs. And, I mean, along with Adrian Peterson, that defense, they're really making things happen here. So I'll bring Josh back in here. This Minnesota-Oakland game here, what are your keys to this matchup Sunday?
Well, the biggest thing is offensively. Now, if Teddy Bridgewater gets cleared, that's going to be great. Obviously, we can't afford to have anybody else running the offense but Teddy Bridgewater. Also, need to make sure we establish the running game. We had a little bit of a hiccup in the fourth quarter, not being able to establish that running game, notably when Teddy Bridgewater went out. The things that I have liked from the Vikings, however, is that over the last 2 games, when you count that Chicago Bears matchup, and you also talk that this past matchup, that they've been able to establish the running game, which is the biggest thing for the Vikings. If they can establish the running game, it's going to make Teddy Bridgewater that much better. If anybody's had a chance to kind of watch some Vikings games this year, it's very safe to say that Teddy has been forcing some throws, and it really doesn't look anything like the quarterback that we expected him to. All right, and it's extremely disappointing on my end. I expected to have him to have a big leap this year. Matter of fact, I've been telling everybody he was going to have a big leap this year, and who knows? We still got a long ways to go to be able to hopefully see that leap. But for the most part, I haven't been super impressed with Bridgewater or the offense for that matter. I mean, the offensive line's atrocious, and, we'll get into that in a minute, I'm sure, when you guys talk that Oakland Raiders defensive front four. Defensively, we have to hope that Eric Kendrick and Anthony Barr both get cleared to play. Now, it sounds like both of them are going to be good to go this weekend. Kendricks was held out last week due to soreness within his ribs. Anthony Barr has been dealing with a little bit of a back issue, so let's just hope that it works that way. Again, the second thing that we also have to make sure is we have to make sure that we're getting pressure on Derek Carr. You guys read off his stats, and there's websites all over the country right now that are comparing Derek Carr to everybody. Most notable is you look at the stats that Aaron Rodgers has put up compared to what Derek Carr has put up, and it's pretty astounding. Now, I will say this about Derek Carr. He was my guy. I did like this kid, heading into his career. Matter of fact, I liked him so much that I truly did believe that he was the third best quarterback on my board when I was doing draft stuff. I thought that Johnny was 2, Teddy was 1, and so on and so forth. Obviously, that can tell you guys that I'm not a huge Blake Bortles fan. But you guys have struck it rich with him, and the ability to you guys add him a weapon with Amari Cooper makes it that much more dangerous. So we have to make sure we get pressure on him. Double A gap pressures, everything of that sort. If we'd be able to do that, and if Blair Walsh could continue to make field goals, everybody was calling for his head, a couple weeks ago, and he's been phenomenal. If we're able to do that, we should be okay.
Oh, okay. And I like your takes there, Josh. It kind of makes me a little bit nervous here. So I guess I'm going to go ahead and throw in my keys for the game over here on Oakland side here. I think when the Raiders have the ball, it does look like Latavius Murray and Amari Cooper will be good to go. So, hey, use the same plan as you used all season long. Get Latavius going early, let him beat up the middle of that defense, and set up those one-on-one opportunities for Crabtree and for Amari Cooper to dominate. And, hey, if you got a chance to, put Marcel Reese out there on the outside. Let him get matched up on a linebacker such as Eric Kendricks or and Anthony Barr. I'm a UCLA fan, so, yeah, I know about these guys here. And I think Marcel Reese could beat them on slant routes and a little comeback routes. Just something small to loosen up the middle of that defense. And offensively, you said a lot of things that I was thinking there, Josh. Just pretty much let Derek Carr let him rip it. That offensive line, they've been playing pretty well, but the thing is we don't have one of Jim's favorite guys going this week in Riley Hudson. I mean, he's a big disciple of the offensive line, but without Hudson this week, I mean, Tony Bergstrom, he's going to have to be really, really big stepping in the center. If he can do that, Carr finds the way to make the plays. And that secondary, I mean, Charles Woodson, he finally gets a little help this week with the return of Nate Allen. I mean, we haven't had him since week 1. And T.J. Carey gets to go back to corner. So maybe that will help out DJ Hayden a little bit. Because I don't think him and Emerson is the perfect kind of tandem to slow down anything. Maybe now with our secondary healthy, things will start to look a little bit better. And I'm going to go ahead and say Oakland 31, Minnesota 24. What do you got, Jim?
Well, I'm going to stop making, after last week, I'm going to stop making score predictions. But my key is, as always, to establish that run. And you know how much I love Hudson. Rodney Hudson, to me, has been the key to that offensive line and its improvement. And that's going to be a big miss if he's not out there on Sunday. So that's going to be the big key to me is still run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. The other thing is gosh, that our defense. My God, our defense. Stop the pass. I know Adrian Peterson is probably still considered a top-flight running back, but stop the pass. I mean, last week was unbelievable. And granted, Minnesota doesn't have an Antonio Brown. Not many teams do. But still, Stephon Diggs, I saw him coming at Maryland. So I know how good he is and how good he can be. It's still dangerous. And with our corners, you never know. I love Nate Allen coming back. That can't do anything but help at this point. Keep David Carr upright. Run the ball on offense. Derek Carr, I haven't done that in 3 weeks, and here I did it tonight. Keep Derek Carr upright, although David might have appreciated it too.
David would probably still be playing if they kept him upright.
Keep Derek Carr upright, establish the run on offense, and for God's sake, give DJ Hayden some help on defense. Nate Allen coming back can't possibly hurt at this point. And you're right, TJ Carey plays a much better corner than he does a safety. And, I'd love to say sit Rod Woodson a week, but I know he won't. If he can go, he can go. I desperately hope Rodney Hudson can play, but again, if it's going to damage his ankle further, just keep him out. I don't think Hudson's playing this week, Jim. He hasn't practiced all week, so we may have to go without him. Yeah, he hasn't participated, so I'm going to count on Bergstrom, I guess, and hope for the best. I love the guy. Hudson's been the key to our offensive line. I hope they can keep doing with Carr what they've done all season long, which is protect him. I'm looking at this game. The Raiders, no game is a cakewalk. No opponent's easy. I don't care if it's Jacksonville. I don't care if it's New England or Minnesota And the Vikings are 6-2. You can't overlook them. They're as tough as any team in the league. And I gotta say, I have a different opinion of Bridgewater. I've caught a couple of their games this year. One of the games I happened to catch was Denver. And Teddy Bridgewater is tough. They beat the hell out of him in that game. And he still stood in. He still did the job. I know the expectations, but with their offensive line, I don't think it's really fair to put it all on him. But, I don't overlook Minnesota at all. It's going to be a tough game.
Well, we really can't overlook Minnesota. I mean, when you got a 6-2 football team, I mean, it's really hard to do that there. And before we move on here to our awards for the first half of the season here, I got to ask Josh here, what players do you think that Oakland will be looking at right now in your latest draft preview?
Well, I think personally, I think they could go a bunch of directions. Me and you talked on the phone about it quite a bit. I know with you being a UCLA guy, you would love for me to throw Miles Jack in there. And I could agree. I think if you throw Miles Jack in there, that's certainly going to make it interesting and spice some things up with it. I also do believe maybe a guy like a DeForest Buckner or Ashawn Robinson. I mean, you guys have Justin Tuck, obviously getting up there in age a little bit. You do have Mario Edwards, but I see him more as a 3 technique, kind of the way that, Lamar Houston played it a little bit, be a 3 or a 5. And so I think Buckner or Ashawn Robinson would be a good choice. I think maybe even if Dan Williams continues to play the way he's been playing, which in my opinion has been a roller coaster. He's had great snaps, then he's had bad snaps. I think a guy like Kenny Clark, if he falls out of the top 10, would be a great choice. My sleeper pick, I will say this, and this is a guy that me and you talked about, Rome. Desmond King, the cornerback out of Iowa. All right, and here's why. And no, it's not because I'm a huge Iowa fan. If anybody follows me on Twitter, they'll know that I'm a big Hawkeye fan. My dad wrestled for him, and so even though I played my college ball at another place, I still bleed black and gold.
I don't know. I don't blame you.
Hey, and I tell you one thing, this kid's the real deal. Now, he's a little shaky in off coverage, but I love him in man. He has a lot of very good traits when he plays man coverage. And the important thing is he's a ball hawk. I mean, he leads the entire country in interceptions this year. And I'd be willing to bet if I decided to go back and watch all of the games from the past, across the country from the past 9 weeks, that he leads the entire country for defensive pick sixes for touchdowns. I believe he has 3 of them this year. One of them being an 88-yarder against Maryland a couple weeks ago. So the guy's a playmaker. He's going to be able to basically transcend the way you guys can cover because he's extremely flexible in terms of whether you guys want to line him up in the nickel, whether you guys line him up in this direction or that direction. So he'd be a good one. I think if you guys had to go inside linebacker and for some god-awful reason Jalen Smith was still on the board, you guys would have to fire the trigger on Jalen Smith. Why not add more to that secondary back half? And the reason I say secondary is because the dude can cover. He's extremely aggressive, extremely physical when he's in space, but most importantly, in what everybody loves about a linebacker is that he is very downhill and does a very good job of fighting through the trash to make open field tackles. Very sound football player.
Yeah, it seems like we definitely need people to make open field tackles. I mean, on that Antonio Brown play where he just took off right when the game was tied, I mean, Emerson missed the play. Then you got Hayden pretty much out of position to clean up. So, yeah, we definitely need players that can come and help with the open field tackling.
Oh, yes.
So that was pretty much our draft look here. And before we move on here to our first half recap here, Josh, tell all the people where they can find your draft work.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. You can find all of my draft work at NGSCsports.com under the Draft Central tab, ran by me and Montel. And We even have an intern this year, Hillary Gilbert from, I think it's Bowling Green University. Yep, Bowling Green State University. He's an intern for us, he's a sophomore in college. He basically runs our Twitter page, which is NGSC_DC. And then, of course, you can find all my hot takes on the Vikings, the NFL, and the NFL Draft, and anything else that wanders through my mind at JZimmer_NFL on Twitter. And most importantly, because I do have to plug my own show, every Wednesday night, the podcast, right before the NGSC recess, the Draft Central podcast, where you can find Montel and myself on Periscope using the same Twitter account handles that we do. We will be running our live shows through Periscope as well. So I definitely recommend all you guys to at least check out Periscope. It is a hell of a time.
Oh, yeah. I was on your show once, Josh. I had a great time, man. You and Montel really do a great job over there.
Hey, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'm sure Montel would love to hear that.
All right, not a problem, man. All right, so that was pretty much our look at Oakland, Minnesota here. Okay, and now we move on here to the first half recap here. The Oakland Raiders, they played 8 games this season. Many people had them pegged for about a 5-11, 6-10 type season. And so far, they've actually surprised expectations with a 4-4 record. And they played pretty well against AFC competition here. So I guess here before I move on here, I guess here my prediction for the Raiders Offensive Player of the Year so far, it has to be Derek Carr. I mean, he's just pretty much turned everything into it's just great now being a Raider fan. The guy doesn't make mistakes. He has the big arm. He's got the 20 touchdowns with the 4 interceptions. He's near 2,000 yards passing. And, man, that offensive line, nobody can touch him. And I think that's because of the pickup of Rodney Hudson and Donald Penn along with Gabe Jackson. Man, these guys, they're maulers up front, and they protect Derek Carr just like he's their little brother. And having a little brother myself, I know exactly what that's like. I mean, so that's exactly how they treat him. And you ain't going to touch DC4, and, hey, it's paying dividends for us and all of Raider Nation there. So Derek Carr right now, my Offensive Player of the Year for the Oakland Raiders through the first 8 games. What do you got, Jim?
Yeah, that's a hard pick to go against. I could say Rodney Hudson because, I love the guy. It was the best off-season signing, but he kind of goes with Derek Carr. At this point, there hasn't been anybody else, especially the string of the last 4 games Carr has put together. He's on a roll right now that can't be touched. And anytime you can get a guy who throws 20 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, that's a good ratio. You'll take that every time. I can't disagree with Carr. You got to give honorable mentions to Crabtree, who's been fantastic. Latavius Murray has been steady, but it's got to be Derek Carr. Got to be Derek Carr.
Oh, I can go with that. So who is your Offensive Player of the Year there, Josh, for the Oakland Raiders in their first 8 games?
Hey, I would definitely agree with both you guys that it's Derek Carr. However, I'm going to go a little bit farther with that and say that it's going to be Jack Del Rio. That's your guys' MVP. Now, a little crazy that it's not a coach for the MVP, or that it's a coach for the MVP, but tune into this, all right? So everybody, especially you guys, know just how bad the Raiders have been. He comes in and turns it around. You guys have an aggressive defense, although your guys' pass defense, especially when they're in coverage, is suspect at times, to say the least. However, the biggest key to a new coach coming into an area is being able to change the culture. And I can say adamantly that he is, without a doubt, changed the culture for the Oakland Raiders and for the Oakland Raider fan base. I mean, like you said, DC4 has Raider fans happy to be a Raider. I mean, which it's been a long time since I've been able to hear a Raider fan say that they're happy to be a Raider. And I know quite a bit of them. But
yeah, it's been a while there, Josh. And yeah, I'm really excited about it here. And speaking of Raider fans here, we got another good friend of mine here. He just signed on here. He's the host of the Fantasy Football Addicts Support Group over here on the NGSC also, my main man, Gerald Wilson, but we all know him as D-Will. So go ahead and get yourself in on this, D-Will. Who is your offensive MVP for the first half of the Oakland Raiders season there? And it's good to see you tonight. We'll talk to you, rather.
Hey, man, most definitely, man. There's no way we could put it other than what everybody's been saying with Derek Carr. But, us Oakland fans, our favorite hashtag this season has been ACDC. And, the first part of that combo is a big reason why Derek Carr is so successful this season. Last year, Derek Carr had probably one of the worst passing metrics in entire NFL history when it comes to yards per attempt. He was dead last in the league when it came to yards per attempt because we had the dink and dunk offense, man. And we didn't have any playmakers down the field. That's what the Oakland Raiders have been lacking over the past few years, were the playmakers down the field. And with Amari Cooper, in effect, stretching that defense leaves everything open underneath. And the numbers, yards per average, is way up this season. I think he added like 3 yards to that 5.2 that he had last year. So Derek Carr, second year in the season, our future's in good hands, man, and he's been playing well. So it has to be Derek Carr. But you have to give props to Amari Cooper as well.
Oh, yeah, no problem with that, D-Will. I can't wait to see AC/DC dominating the AFC West for at least the next 10 to 15 years, though. So we're pretty much all unanimous here with DC4 as our Offensive Player of the Year through the first 8 here. Now, this category here, I'm sure we're going to all have probably a few differing views here. I mean, my Defensive Player of the Year through the first 8 games, it has to be the ageless one. Although I was thinking about going with Malcolm Smith because, I mean, he has been a big-time asset to that Raider defense, to that linebacking core. But I'm going to go ahead and go with the ageless one, Charles Woodson. Last month's Defensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Month, 5 interceptions this season. And the crazy thing is he's doing all this with one shoulder. I mean, imagine if he had 2 good shoulders. He's up there laying in the wood, covering. He's got that range that he had as a rookie from 1998. And, man, he looks just great. I think he can play 2-3 more years as part of the Oakland Raider defense. I mean, we signed a safety to probably apprentice under him, and he can still play at a high level. So it's Chuck Wood for me, number 24. Who's your Defensive Player of the Year through the first 8 there, Jim?
Well, you're not going to get any disagreement with me on Woodson. To me, you called him the ageless wonder, and past the age of 39, but I cannot tell you I never would have done the stuff he's doing at 39. I wouldn't even be able to think about it. He's been all over the field. And like you said, he hasn't been healthy for a month. He's had that shoulder, and you can tell it's affected him. He missed a tackle. He's missed a few tackles that he would have made with 2 good shoulders. But he's still been everywhere. And the past, over the last 3 weeks until last week in Pittsburgh, you could almost tell, and I wish I could talk to him and ask him, but you can tell he's been shading Hayden and helping him because he's cut in front of a couple of Hayden's guys for interceptions, and he looks like he's 24. He does. He looks like he's played when he was 24, and it's incredible to me. I could understand Malcolm Smith because you've made me watch him all season long since you've been hyping him, and he is all over the field. It's hard not to look at him and say, yeah, that guy should be defensive MVP. But right now you got to go with Charles Woodson. There's no one else.
Oh yeah, no doubt. What you got over there, Josh?
Both of them are great. Matter of fact, Rome, me and you were talking about Charles Woodson, the Bionic Man, before we even jumped on. But for me, it's Khalil Mack. And now, while we don't see the sack numbers that we've seen from him as a rookie, what he's being able to do, being able to show that he's more of a diverse player, being able to play in space and be effective in space, and actually be the face of this defense. Now, I mean, there's not a whole lot of first-round picks, if any first-round picks, on this defense that were drafted by the Raiders. I believe DJ Hayden and then Charles Woodson back in the day. Other than that, most of them are what we like to call, misfits or steals. They were third, fourth, fifth-round, sixth guys that have just basically come on in and started playing great football. But Khalil Mack, he was drafted to be the face of that defense. He showed that he has the ability to be the face of that defense last year as a rookie. And you're watching him this year, you're actually watching him grow into that leadership role in his sophomore season, showing the ability to be a more diverse player. And that's my biggest fear this weekend is that, we talk about, listen to you guys talk about how it's stressful because we're not seeing the sacks from him that we were expecting. My biggest fear is I'm like, oh, damn, the Vikings offensive line sucks. Khalil Mack's going to, he's going to be eating. He's going to have a fork in his napkin. He's going to be ready to go. I will not be surprised. I'll make a prediction right now. Will not be surprised if Mack finishes the game with, let's say, 10, 11 tackles, maybe even a forced turnover, whether it be a pick or a fumble. 5 or 6 hits on the QB, whether it be TB or Sean Hill. If it's Sean Hill, we're going to have a long-ass day because at least TB is mobile. And I would say probably 2 sacks. I think that his matchup against how bad this offensive line is in terms of their ability not to be able to keep their quarterbacks upright could be a long day.
Well, as a Raider fan, I hope you're right there, Josh. I'd love for Khalil Mack to actually have a breakout performance either this week or next week because, Detroit, they don't really leave much to be desired either, but we'll talk about them next Friday night. So who you got as your defensive player so far this first 8 games over there, D. Will?
We talk about defensive player of the year, man, but he's probably the MVP of the entire team, and that's my man Charlie Woods. What he's been doing this season is beyond inspirational, man. Like the leadership that he provides. No, it's no secret that the Raiders' secondary is a little bit suspect right now. Every now and then, these guys make plays, and he makes the biggest plays of them all. So he provides that leadership. He sets an example on and off the field for the entire team, and he never gives up. As we just saw last week, Antonio Brown on that big play could have took it to the house, but he didn't take it to the house. Why? Because Charlie Wood ran him down and gave the team still a chance to maybe block a field goal at the end of the game, which we didn't. But he still gave him a chance nonetheless. A speedy player like Antonio Brown should have took that to the house, but Charlie Wood ran him down. Never give up. And that's what Charlie Wood is telling these guys, man. He's leading by example. So to me, he's easily the defensive player of the year on the team. And he should be a team MVP as well.
I got no problem with that call right there, D. Will. Chuck Wood is showing the way. At the age of 39, to still be doing the things he's out there doing, he really does want to see the Raiders get back to the way they were in his younger days when they actually did get to a Super Bowl. And if he could even just help them get to 8-8, the playoffs, that ain't even something he got to do this year. Just show him how to win, and he's doing that. So I have no problem with you saying Chuck Wood should be the MVP of this team right now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that was our offensive and defensive players of the year. Okay, and now we're going to go on to a pretty interesting category here. So far in the first 8 games, best game of the season. Early on, I thought it would be that back-and-forth showdown with Oakland and Baltimore, but I'm going to have to go with a game that, sure, the score doesn't look like it was a dominant performance, but, hey, that game in Week 7 where the Raiders, they went out there and they just ripped San Diego apart. It wasn't just the score or anything like that. Raider Nation went over there. They took over that stadium. Phillip Rivers has to go to a silent count on his home field. You're doing something right. Derek Carr, his coming out party. Amari Cooper, man, that move where he put that guy on skates. I still remember getting the vine of that on Twitter. Man, it was just a dominant performance all around. And my guy Malcolm Smith getting the interception to set the tone, and Tavius Murray getting into the end zone. Crabtree even got into the end zone a time or two himself that game. And, man, before the Raiders stopped playing, it was 37. I thought they could have got 50 that day. So it was a dominating performance all around. Raiders 37, Chargers 29. That was the best Raider performance for me so far this season. What you got, Jim?
Well, naturally, I'm going to say my favorite is the 37-33 win over the Ravens, because that gives me, 6 years of bragging rights here in Baltimore. But in my mind, the best performance this year was the game against the Jets, the 34-20 win, because the Jets' defense is really, really good. I don't exactly have an explanation for what happened that game, but the Jets' defense is really, really good, and I never believe in putting down an opponent because it cheapens the Raiders' effort. But what they did with the Jets, that good, solid defense that New York has, was really impressive. And defensively, that game, it just seemed like they fired on all cylinders, and they hit Fitzpatrick, they hit Geno Smith, they put Geno Smith out, they put Fitzpatrick out twice. So for me, that was their best effort. Latavius Murray ran for 100 yards. Both wide receivers had great games. Carr threw for 300 yards and 4 TDs. You can't get any better than that, especially against that defense. And not only that, they held Chris Ivory, who's had a fantastic season, to, 17 yards on 13 carries. So to me, that was the best all-around game they've played all year.
Okay, I can go with that, Jim, because, it was actually a game where in the fourth quarter, because you and I, we have this running gag where we say the Raiders never make anything easy on themselves no matter how big of a lead they have. They were actually able to cruise in the fourth quarter of that game, save for a couple of clock miscues. But, hey, if we're sitting there bitching about a clock situation with 5 minutes left, chances are the Raiders won the game, so we'll take it,
Exactly.
Yeah. So how about you, Josh? What's been your favorite Raider game so far of the first 8?
Well, it's going to be a game that you guys are going to probably slaughter me for. But I really liked that game last week against the Steelers, even though it ended up being a loss. The biggest thing that I like about it is, I'm not necessarily, while I love, watching blowouts. Blowouts are fun. It's cool to see offense, firing on all cylinders. Being a former player, I like to see how players and teams themselves respond and challenge adversity. Are they going to rise to the occasion? Are they going to flounder? And multiple times in that game, they could have easily stopped playing, and they continued to battle till the very end, which is why I believe, again, that I believe the Raiders are going to be a team to mess with, even in the AFC West, and possibly, even in the AFC for years to come. They have a core nucleus of young guys that have been putting in the work and putting in the stats for that matter. And I love the fact that, again, we talk about the change of culture that Del Rio has been able to apply. His ability to teach this team to rise from adversity and challenge it, it can't go unnoted. So while everybody was talking about, the wins and everything like that, I will easily say that loss proved one of the biggest things about this Raider team, which that it's a team that is bringing their pitchforks, and they're going to go down swinging until the clock says zeros.
Well, I got nothing against that either, though, Josh. And it did kind of give me a bit of a hope, because usually that's a game where in previous years the Raiders, they would just fold up the tent and just take the beat down and move on the next week. Derek Carr and that offense, they said, hell no, not today. And they just kept fighting. If they don't turn the ball over 3 to 4 times and Latavius Murray doesn't get knocked out, Oakland wins that game easy, even with the defensive issues they had. So this is one of the games where they probably should be able to take heart and they say, hey, we don't turn the ball over, there's nobody in the league that we can't stand toe-to-toe with, and that includes teams such as the New England Patriots or the Cincinnati Bengals if we were lucky enough to get a rematch with those guys. But I'm proud alone. D. Will, what's your favorite game?
Are you talking favorite, or are we talking about the best performance?
Either one. Either one works in this situation.
There's a few ways we could go with this, man. But had you started with me, I would have said the Jets, because the Jets game had everybody talking. You know what I mean? It gave everybody around the league, it put everybody on notice. that this Raiders offense is real, because that Jets defense had been so, so dominant, and especially in the fantasy football world, where all of a sudden everybody wants to own Derek Carr on their fantasy team. But really and truly, man, probably the best performance of the year having been that 16-10 loss to the Denver Broncos about a month back. We dominated that game, man. We dominated that game. We stood toe-to-toe with the Broncos from beginning to the end. We held down that powerful offense. We held their rushing game down. We held Peyton Manning down. Derek Carr played admirable. We ran the ball against that defense. Had not been for a few sloppy turnovers, Latavius Murray coughing up the ball a couple times, and that fourth quarter interception while we were driving, got down close to the red zone, but Chris Harris intercepted that pass and took it to the house 34 yards to seal the game for them. Man, a team like the Broncos, who is likely going to be in the AFC Championship game this year again, who knows, man? Who knows what could happen? That gave me a lot of hope. Even though that we lost, that gave me a lot of hope, because I didn't expect us to compete with them at that level. Like that game was close from beginning to end, man, and that really, really got my attention, because at that time, these weren't the same old Raiders of the past 10 years. You knew something was different right then and there. So I'll say the October 11th game against the Broncos.
Okay, I can go with that, D. Will. An inspiring performance on a defeat. We got two of those. You and Josh went with those, and we went with I went with the Chargers, and Jim went with the Jets. Okay, not bad here. Okay, on to our next segment here. We've got 8 games left in this second half of the season here. We started out with Minnesota Sunday at home. Then you got a couple of road games with Detroit and Tennessee coming up, where I think we'll get to see a pretty interesting contrast of styles. We get to see a young, fast quarterback in Marcus Mariota, so that ought to be pretty interesting to deal with. Then we get December, man, that's going to be very, very fun. It's going to be very telling. December 6th, the first game, we get Kansas City coming in to our house for the first of 2 meetings with them in a 5-week span. Then after that, we get the big one, another trip to Denver at Mile High. I think if the Raiders can take their confidence that from that game that Denver played here in Oakland, the Raiders could go out there and make some things happen against those Broncos. Then you get another big game with the Green Bay Packers coming in here. The Packers, they don't look too formidable. I mean, they're still 6-2. They still got Aaron Rodgers. They still got a hell of an offense. But I do think they're a beatable football team if you can get pressure on Aaron Rodgers and make him start to make decisions. I mean, Carolina and Denver have shown us the way there. Then you get Christmas Eve. You got the San Diego Chargers coming into the black hole. Hopefully that game still means something for us, because that was pretty much what I just wanted to do, just have the games mean something in December. I mean, let the kids start to play meaningful football. Then you close it out with the Kansas City Chiefs. And if the Raiders still have a shot at this thing on January 3rd going into Arrowhead Stadium, dude, I'll be over the moon, win or lose. But, I mean, at that point, we might as well just go win the damn thing. So, yeah, let's go get it. My prediction for the second half, I think the Raiders can get 5 of these 8 games. Sure, probably beating Denver and Green Bay back-to-back may be asking too much, and I'm sure Kansas City will get us once. But get to 5-3, finish 9-7. I'm not sure that'll be enough to make the playoffs in the AFC, but, hey, it's a step in the right direction. 9-7 for the Oakland Raiders, and have a chance to really take off in 2016. So, Jim, in these 8 games, what are you looking at for the Raiders?
Well, if you told me in August and looking in August at the schedule and going, of course, it seems like we're always going to Green Bay. But if you told me we were playing Green Bay, I would say it would probably be a 45-14 game. But the way our offense has played in the first half, I think we can compete with Green Bay. They don't do anything defensively that frightens me. They don't have any defensive players that particularly scare me. As far as our offense goes, I think we can go toe-to-toe with them if their defense plays like it's been playing the last 2 or 3 weeks. I hate doing this because I hate going down and saying, okay, that's going to be a win, that's going to be a win.
Yeah, I feel you there, Jim. I mean, we always talk about one game at a time. But, I mean, it's okay to look ahead on this program. It's okay. We won't tell anybody that we did.
But we're looking at Detroit and Tennessee, and Detroit's an absolute mess right now. Their front office is being torn apart. Stafford's playing like a man who does not trust his offensive line. In Tennessee, you've got Marcus Mariota, who's coming off of a huge game, actually. I think, didn't he throw 4 touchdowns a couple weeks ago or last week?
Yeah, 4 against the Saints.
So he's, you can't overlook Tennessee, but as much as you want to, you can't overlook Detroit. However, I think those are 2 winnable games. And if we can, I know we can beat San Diego. We've done it. Kansas City, they're a big question mark to me because they, without Jamal Charles, they haven't been the same team. And anytime you got to depend on Alex Smith to win you games, it's just not going to work for you. He's a good quarterback with a running game, but when you get him in there as the guy who needs to beat somebody, I don't see it. I would love to win 5 of the 8 games, and I think it's possible. The one thing that 4-4 in the first half has given me is hope for the second half that we can close out strong. And those are some big AFC West matchups down the stretch that hopefully, like you said, hopefully they're going to mean something. And I'd love to see it.
Well, I'd love to see that also, Jim. It all starts here Sunday afternoon against Minnesota. You got to win one game to make the next game even bigger there. And speaking of Minnesota, so what is your take on these last 8 games here for the Raiders, Josh?
It's the same way that you guys have been kind of been saying it. Have to take one game at a time. I am going to be intrigued to see the way they play the Tennessee Titans. Reason being is I think we've all kind of have been, for those who weren't on the bandwagon, I think everybody's now jumped on the Marcus Mariota bandwagon. Hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. We knew that this was going to be the type of season that he was going to have. Now the question is he going to be able to finish the season strong? Because he started extremely hot. And I think that would be a key. This will be a big key for him, is if he can get a win against those Raiders. Again, an upcoming defense against the upcoming quarterback. Storylines for days. There's going to be great storylines there. The fact that even though it's been some time, Del Rio is still somewhat familiar, with the AFC South. It should be a pretty solid matchup in my opinion. And I do want to speak on Green Bay because I like the way that you were talking about that. You're thinking that your offense can handle with them. Personally, I think your guys' defense can handle with it too. If you guys are able to get pressure on Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be a lot different than what people are expecting it to be. Reason being, they don't have a running game right now. And if somebody tells you they do have a running game, make sure you slap them and tell them to work. Eddie Lacy has gone back to his ways as what he was as a rookie. He's probably 30 to 40 pounds overweight. He needs to stop standing in the buffet line with the offensive lineman and eating salad, or he will be an offensive lineman.
You're getting there.
It's extremely, in my opinion, I hate Green Bay with a passion, but I do respect their game, and to me, it's disappointing to see the caliber of running back that this guy is. Basically, let's be honest, guys. He ate himself out of a starting job, and pretty soon, if he doesn't understand that, he can't be a 260-pound back like a Jerome Bettis, because that's a completely different animal. He's going to eat himself out of the league. But for Raider fans, just hope that he stands in a couple more buffet lines, because I do have a bad feeling that, if he does get his weight under control, or, comes back to start being kind of the player that he was previously, it could be a long day for you guys, because, that's strength versus strength, and, iron on iron necessarily. You're going to sharpen it, but it could go the way of the offense.
Pretty interesting point there, Josh. Well, I'll send him a couple of pizzas myself. Keep eating, my brother. All right, D. Will. What's your take on these next 8 games here coming up for Oakland?
don't get me started on Eddie Lacy, man. But if you go back to the preseason and when we had our preseason show, and I stopped in, man, I predicted that we'll be right where we're at right now. You know, if you remember, I said we'll be 4-4.
Yeah, you did make that call. Actually, I do recall that you saying that.
Yep. So I don't wanna look too far ahead, man, because this is a long season and things change as the season go along. So I'm gonna stop at the next 4 games, and I'm just gonna say this is the toughest one that we have coming up on Sunday against these Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings, man, have been going completely under the radar. They are not a sexy team by any means. Not by any means at all. Adrian Peterson hasn't been making the highlights like people expect him to make highlights, but he just grinds those yards out tough. Teddy Bridgewater isn't throwing for 300 yards, but he's very efficient and accurate. They don't have 100-yard receivers like that. Stephon Diggs had a couple 100-yard games. Kyle Rudolph has only been catching 2 passes for each of the last 5 games. He's only caught 2 passes in every game, but yet they're winning and winning and winning. Their defense isn't taking picks to the house or fumble recoveries to the house. They're a bend but don't break defense. You know, they are a very, very solid football team, Minnesota Vikings are, and this is the toughest one. But I'll say this, and remember I said this, if we win this game right here, there's no reason the Oakland Raiders shouldn't go 4-0 over the next 4 games. There's no reason they shouldn't go 4-0. If they could get past, if they could make up the mistakes on defense that they had last week, and that's a big if, because DeAngelo Williams is running for 170 yards. What's Adrian Peterson going to do? That's, you know, we stopped the run. We cut the head off that team. We could get a win this Sunday. Then after the Vikings, I mean the Lions, you know, they're completely imploding. And I think we could go into Tennessee and get a win. Although they play hard-nosed defense, they really don't have much to show on offense. Then of course the Chiefs. I don't fear the Chiefs at all. And like my man said, they're a different team without Jamal Charles. Although Charkandrick West is a very, very good running back. And yeah, man, like we should go 4-0. If we beat Minnesota Vikings this week at home, we should go 4-0 over the next 4. Then talk to me later. Talk to me later. Talk to me after the Chiefs game, man. Because like I just can't get past these 4 right here, man. I just really can't. Because after this 4, then we got the Broncos and we got the Packers. And, so you know what I mean? So it's hard to even get into those games right now because so many things could change in a matter of a month, man. So I don't even want to look past that. Like this isn't even a team that I thought we were going to have right now. You know what I mean? I said 4-4, but I didn't expect us to get 4-4 this way. You know, I didn't expect this to happen this way. So it is what it is, man. And on that note, fellas, I have to jump out the window, man. And thanks for having me on again, Rome. And we'll definitely catch up, man. Big Jim and Josh, man, you guys take care, man. Enjoy the rest of the show.
All right. Thank you for hopping on with us, D. Will. And before you go, I just want to say one more thing. If I'm speaking to you in early December and Oakland's 8-4, I'd probably be jumped off of my roof somewhere because I'd be over the moon, man.
Hey, man, listen, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I try not to say a whole bunch of positive things about the Raiders, man, because all it does is break my heart. You know what I mean? And like I said, preseason, it was too much positivity coming out of preseason. You know what I mean? But things are starting to come into fruition. Like, I had to wait for this first half of the season to see how things are going. And, you know, we should be 6-2 right now. We should be 6-2. The game, it is what it is because, you know, we didn't deserve to win that game. We gave up that many yards. We did not deserve to win that game at all. But we should have definitely won that Chicago game for sure. We should have definitely won that Chicago game, and we should not have given away the game to the Broncos. So we should be 6-2 right now. Cincinnati whooped our ass, and we didn't deserve to win in Pittsburgh. So that's just my take on the first half of the season. And like I said, man, we get past the Vikings this Sunday. Like, look out, NFL. Like, people already hate us, Raider fans. Like, we are going to be freaking, like, we're obnoxious right now. Oh, my goodness. And, hey, one more thing before I go, man. And I just want to say, you know what I mean, everybody keep the people in Paris, man. in your prayers, man, because, you know, it could happen. It could happen anywhere, man. Like, these terrorist attacks could happen anywhere, and I heard they're trying to get inside the soccer match or whatever. I want to see terrorists try to get into Oakland Stadium. So we got something coming for them. But,
yeah, for real, no doubt, D. Will.
Hey, take care, man.
All right, man. Yeah, terrorism will never win. So, yeah, we are praying for the people of Paris, and that was a great take on your part.
All right, fellas. Later.
All right. And that's pretty much our show tonight. I mean, Jim, D. Will, Josh, you guys did a great job tonight. And I'd like to say thank you, Josh. I mean, I pulled you in on short notice today, and you came in there and you banged it out. I appreciate you, man.
Hey, anytime, my friend. I appreciate you having me on, and we'll definitely be having you on the Draft Central in the near future.
I'm definitely looking forward to it. I mean, we had such a great time last time. So, yeah, I mean, you got the number. Just give me a buzz anytime you need me.
Oh, yes, sir, we will. You as well.
Yeah. So, Jim, did you have a great time with this show tonight? I told you we was going to have ourselves a hell of a time, man.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, it helps when the Raiders are playing well because, you know, it gives us something to talk about other than just complaining.
Oh, yeah. You know what's funny? I mean, me and you, we complain a lot, but, I mean, we really haven't complained that much this season because everything the Raiders are giving us is really a bonus. So, I mean, we really can't complain about much.
You know, I'm looking at this season as just kind of a stepping stone. Because, you know, I have been with Reggie McKenzie since the beginning, and I see what he's trying to do, and I love what he's trying to do. And it's been frustrating because I'm trying to explain it to people, and you can't when you're going 3-13. You can't explain to people, you know, be patient. It's frustrating to explain to them because they're pissed off. They hate 3-13 as much as anybody. But I'm watching this season, and it's a lot of fun to me because I'm seeing it now. I'm seeing everything Reggie McKenzie's been doing. It's coming out this season, and we're only going to get better.
Yeah, I feel you there, Jim. I mean, I'm one of the people that you told to chill out and trust the process, too. And I was on a point where Reggie McKenzie could pretty much go to hell. But, yeah, I'm finally starting to feel it now, man. And I'm ready to trust the process. Hey, let's go get him, you know.
I'm the first to admit you were absolutely 100% right about Hugh Jackson. And we never should have fired him. And to me, firing him probably took 2 years off the process. It put it 2 years behind. Because he did have an 8-8 team, and if you step in and you just be patient, you let him do his thing, then we could be that much better right now. I've even sat here, Dennis Allen, that's his name. God, I forgot the coach's name, and I almost put it out of my mind. But
well, I mean, that's a name many a Raider Nation supporter wants to forget, Jim. So you're not the only one.
So you were 100% right about that. I will give that to you. Absolutely, I will admit I was dead wrong. So you know, we're all wrong every now and again.
Yeah, you know, it happens from time to time here. So I mean, tonight, we don't really have a moment in Raider history tonight because we had our roundtable discussion. But we do have a rather interesting stat that I wanted to run by you here before we left, Jim. You know that this is actually the third time in the last 6 seasons the Raiders have started a season 4-4. I mean, for all the bitching and complaining we do about that team sucking, I mean, they have started 4-4 3 times over the last 6 years.
Well, I don't think that we've done it looking quite like this, especially offensively.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take a single thing away from a guy like Jason Campbell, who I absolutely loved as the Raider quarterback. To me, he was the best quarterback since Gannon. But I'm not seeing the all-around offense that I'm seeing right now. I'm not seeing that offensive line I wasn't seeing that offensive line like it is right now. It's a wall. And I love it. I absolutely love it. Because right now we're playing as well fundamentally as I've seen the Raiders play since Gannon. You can't really, we've got a quarterback who's thrown for 300 yards the last, 4 games?
The last 3 games, I believe. He didn't have 300 against Denver either.
Last 3 games. And he's thrown 4 interceptions in 8 games. It doesn't get any better than that. So, yeah, we started off 4-4 in 3 of the last however many seasons, and that is actually kind of surprising as bad as they've been. I'm guessing a couple of those were under Hugh Jackson.
We had the one under Tom Cable in 2010. We had the Hugh Jackson one in 2011, and we got the JDR one here in 2015.
Yeah, and so that is kind of surprising. But to me, they weren't doing it the same way in 2010 and 2011.
Yeah, exactly. I was telling somebody that earlier. I think this 4-4 incarnation is set up for more long-term success. Because the last couple of years under Al Davis, there really was no long-term plan. He was just trying to win now so that he could say the Raiders were good before he passed away. And I guess I can't be too angry at that. I mean, he tried. But, yeah, this team is set up for more long-term success. So thank you tonight, Jim. You did a great job, man, and we're going to get together. We're going to tell ourselves another wonderful story next week, and hopefully it ends with a Minnesota victory,
We can always hope.
Exactly. And what we got going on here on the NGSC here, tune in tomorrow morning for the Flying Elvis Faithful with my main man, Josh Madsen, and my main man, Shaq Krosky. They do that show with the New England Patriots more justice than I could, would, or would even want to. But, hey, they're big-time Patriots fans. They're good friends of mine. They do a good show. So if you're up early, 9 a.m. Eastern on the NGSC, check them out. And check me and Josh Madsen out Wednesday night at 11 Eastern on the NGSC West Recess. We'll break down more college football. We'll break down the West Coast games, and we'll look ahead to the Week 11 showdowns here. And if you can't get enough Raider football, hey, me and Jim, we'll be right back here with you next Friday night on the Blackhole Brigade, 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific. We'll be back in our normal time slot. We'll break down this Oakland-Minnesota game. We'll talk about Oakland-Detroit. And we'll have ourselves a good story to tell. So, I'd like to say one more time thank you to Josh Zimmer and to Daryl Wilson, D. Will. You guys came on and you put a little color in our show tonight, so thank you for that. And for my co-host with the most, Jim Paskowitz, thank you. I mean, you're my right hand, and I'm always glad to talk Raiders with you. And so I guess the only thing left to say now is good night and go Raiders.
Go Raiders.